The old house stood at the end of a quiet street, its walls carrying the weight of decades, its windows reflecting memories as much as they did the morning sun. To a stranger, it might have looked ordinary, a modest, aging home with peeling paint and a creaky porch swing. But to me, Elena, it was everything. It was the place where laughter had echoed through hallways, where tiny footsteps once ran across the floor, and where my late husband's voice still seemed to linger when the wind moved just right. I was 68 years old when my world began to change, but up until then, that house had been my sanctuary, and above all else, it was the one gift I wanted to leave for my daughter, Sophia. From the day she was born, Sophia became the center of my universe. I can still remember holding her for the first time, so small, so fragile, with eyes wide open as if she already wanted to take in the whole world. I had whispered into her ear, "I promise, my love, I will never let anything hurt you." Life wasn't easy. My husband, Victor, passed away when Sophia was just 10 years old. He was the love of my life, and losing him felt like losing half of myself. But I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. I had a child who needed me, and so I gathered every bit of strength I had and kept moving forward. I worked 3 jobs at times, cleaning offices at night, sewing clothes for neighbors, and cooking meals for families who didn't have time. My hands grew rough, my back ached, but I never complained. Each time I saw Sophia smiling, I knew it was worth it. When other children went on school trips, I found ways to scrape together the money so Sophia wouldn't feel left out. When she wanted a dress for her high school dance, I skipped meals for weeks just to buy the fabric and stitch it myself. And when she got accepted into college, I sold the last piece of jewelry Victor had given me so she could go without worrying about tuition. Sophia was my pride, my light. Every picture of her hung on the walls of our home. Her first drawing, her graduation photo, even a silly selfie she once printed for me. I would often sit in the living room, cup of tea in hand, and look at those photos, telling myself that all my sacrifices had been worth it. The house itself carried his presence too. In the garden, Victor had planted roses for me on our 5th anniversary. Even after he was gone, I cared for those roses every spring, trimming them gently, whispering to them like they could carry my words to him. The old oak tree in the yard still had the swing he had built for Sophia. The walls inside bore tiny pencil marks where I had measured her height every birthday, watching her grow taller with each passing year. It wasn't just a house. It was a vessel of love, grief, joy, and sacrifice. And I believed, foolishly perhaps, that Sophia cherished it as deeply as I did. One evening, I was sitting on the porch with her. She was 28 now, grown and beautiful, with long dark hair that reminded me of her father. She worked in the city and often came home tired, but I always made her favorite stew to cheer her up. As she stirred her bowl that night, she said, "Mama, you've really taken care of this place. I don't know how you've managed all these years." I smiled, warmed by her words. "This house is a part of me, Sophia, and it's yours too. One day, it will be the place your children run around in, just like you did." She gave a small laugh, but there was something in her eyes I couldn't quite read. A flicker of restlessness. At the time, I brushed it off. I thought perhaps she was just tired. I reached over and held her hand. "Everything I've done, every sacrifice, it was for you. I wanted you to have what I couldn't. This home, it's my gift to you. My love is in every corner of it." Well, she squeezed my hand lightly and smiled. "I know, Mama, and I'll never forget that." Those words filled me with comfort that night. I went to bed feeling safe, believing my daughter understood the depth of my love. But love, as I was about to learn, can blind you, and sometimes, the very person you would give your life for is the one who will take it all away. The summer heat hung heavy that year, pressing down on the small town as if the air itself carried a warning I couldn't hear. I was busy tending to the roses in the garden one morning when Sophia came to me, her hair tied neatly, her expression unusually serious. "Mama, can we talk?" she asked, holding a folder of papers close to her chest. I wiped the dirt from my hands and smiled, expecting her to tell me about work, or maybe about the man she had been seeing, Daniel. I had met him once or twice, a slick, talking young man who always seemed more interested in his phone than in the conversation. I had my doubts about him, but Sophia insisted he was ambitious and good-hearted. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I had served her birthday cakes for years. She slid the folder toward me. "Mama, these are just some documents I need you to sign," she said softly. "It's nothing serious, just some refinancing paperwork. Daniel said it's a smart move. It'll help us save money on property taxes." I frowned slightly, my hands hesitating over the folder. Property taxes. But I've always managed. Why would we need this now? Sophia reached over and placed her hand on mine, her eyes glistening with practiced innocence. "Mama, you've worked so hard all your life. This will make things easier for you. Please trust me on this." Her voice carried the same sweetness she used as a child whenever she wanted something. Another toy, another late-night story. My heart softened. She was my daughter, my only daughter. Why would I ever doubt her? So, I signed. Page after page I signed, my old hand scrawling across lines I didn't understand. Each stroke of the pen felt like an act of love, a gesture of trust. Never in my worst nightmares did I imagine I was signing away my home, my sanctuary, the very roof over my head. Days turned into weeks, and nothing seemed unusual. Sophia still visited, still kissed my cheek, still called me mama with that same sweetness. But sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, her eyes would drift to the walls, to the furniture, to the house itself, as if she were measuring it, weighing it, calculating its worth. And then came the day my world collapsed. It was a quiet afternoon when I heard the sound of unfamiliar voices outside. Peering through the window, I saw a moving truck parked in front of the house. A young couple was stepping out of a car, holding hands, their faces full of excitement. I opened the door, confused. "Can I help you?" I asked politely. The woman smiled. "Oh, you must be the previous owner. We're so excited to move in. It's such a lovely home." Her words hit me like a stone to the chest. "Previous owner. I'm sorry," I stammered. "There must be a mistake. This is my home." The man pulled out a folder. "No mistake, ma'am. We bought this house from your daughter last month. All the paperwork is here. She said you'd already moved out." My heart stopped. The world spun. I shook my head violently. "No, this isn't possible. My daughter would never." But even as the words left my mouth, the truth crashed into me like a wave. The papers I had signed, the way she had avoided my questions lately, the restless flicker in her eyes. I stumbled inside and called Sophia. My hands trembled so badly I could barely hold the phone. She answered on the third ring, her voice too calm. "Mama! Sophia!" My voice broke. "Tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't sell our home." There was silence on the line. Then, she sighed. "Mama, please, don't make this harder. You don't understand. This house is old, falling apart, Daniel, and I needed the money to start fresh. You'll be fine." And my knees gave out and I sank to the floor. "Fine. How could you do this to me? To the home where you grew up, where your father's memory still lives. Where do you expect me to go?" Her tone hardened, no longer the sweet daughter I had raised. "You'll figure it out, Mama. You always do. I have my own life now. Don't guilt me with the past." And then, just like that, she hung up. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. I sat there, the phone slipping from my hands, my tears falling onto the tiled floor. My own daughter, the child I had given everything for, had cast me aside as though I were nothing. By evening, I was gone from the house. The new owners were polite, but their pity burned me deeper than cruelty would have. I packed what little I could carry. A photo of Victor, a small bag of clothes. That night, I found myself sitting on a cold bench under the streetlight, the darkness wrapping around me like a shroud. I was homeless, betrayed, alone. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark flickered. The same spark that had carried me through my husband's death, through endless nights of sacrifice, through every hardship life had thrown at me. I didn't know it yet, but that spark would become the fire that rebuilt me. But in that moment, all I could do was whisper into the night, "Why, Sophia? Why?" The first nights on the street were the hardest. I slept on benches, wrapped in nothing but an old coat I had carried with me. The pavement was cold, the air heavy, with silence broken only by the distant hum of cars. Every creak, every shadow made me flinch. I, who had once welcomed my daughter home with warm meals and clean sheets, was now nothing more than a wandering ghost in the city that had once been mine. Shame clung to me like a second skin. I avoided familiar faces. I couldn't bear the thought of someone recognizing me, asking, "Elena, what happened? Where is your daughter?" How could I answer that? That the very person I had raised, loved, and sacrificed everything for had thrown me away like unwanted clutter. One rainy night, I found myself sheltering under the awning of a community center. I sat huddled, drenched, when a woman approached me. She wore a faded cardigan and carried a box of donated bread. "Are you hungry, dear?" she asked gently. I looked up, ashamed to speak. She didn't press, only handed me a piece of bread and a cup of tea. The warmth of it spread through me, not just in my stomach but in my heart. It had been a long time since anyone had shown me kindness. Her name was Clara, a volunteer at the center. She didn't pry into my past. Instead, she offered me something I thought I no longer had: dignity. "You can come inside, you know," she said. "We have cots, food, showers. It's not much, but it's better than the street." And so, for the first time in weeks, I slept on a mattress. Thin and worn, yes, but soft compared to the stone-hard bench. I wept silently that night, not from despair this time, but from gratitude. Days passed. I began to help around the center, folding clothes, serving soup, sweeping floors. My hands, once so accustomed to work, found purpose again. Slowly, the haze of betrayal began to lift. Clara introduced me to others. There was George, a retired teacher who had lost everything to medical bills. There was Maria, a young mother fleeing an abusive home. I realized I was not alone in my suffering. Betrayal, loss, misfortune touched many lives. It was Maria who said to me one afternoon, "You have the eyes of someone who has carried too much love and too much pain. But pain can either drown you or teach you how to swim." Her words stayed with me. One morning I went to the public library. I hadn't been there in years, but something inside me pulled me toward it. I asked to use a computer, my fingers trembling over the keyboard. I began to search property laws, fraud, elder exploitation, legal rights for homeowners. The more I read, the more pieces of the puzzle came together. Sophia had tricked me into signing papers that transferred the title of the house. I had been deceived, yes, but there were laws, protections, avenues I hadn't known existed. That spark inside me grew brighter. I started taking notes, scribbling down terms I didn't understand, returning each day to learn more. Clara noticed my determination and introduced me to an old friend of hers, Mr. Harris, a retired lawyer who volunteered at the center. He was kind, with silver hair and sharp eyes. When I explained what had happened, he listened without judgment, only nodding slowly. "Elena," he said at last, "what your daughter did is not only cruel, it may be illegal. You trusted her, and she betrayed that trust. If you want, I can help you look into it. But you must be patient. Revenge was best when it arrives dressed as justice." Justice. The word settled into my heart like a seed waiting to grow. In the weeks that followed, I began to rebuild myself in small but meaningful ways. I found part-time work at a bakery near the center. The owner, an elderly widow herself, said she trusted me because my eyes reminded her of someone who refused to give up. With my first paycheck, I bought a second-hand notebook. In it, I wrote everything: my pain, my hopes, the details of the betrayal, and every step toward reclaiming my dignity. For the first time in a long time, I began to smile. Not often, not fully, but enough to remind myself that I was still alive. And yet, every night as I closed my eyes, I thought of Sophia. Her laughter as a child, her promises as a young woman, her cold voice on the phone when she abandoned me. The wound was still raw, but now it fueled me. I whispered to myself in the dark, "You took everything from me, Sophia. You thought you had broken me. But you will see, a mother's love is strong. But a mother's strength when betrayed is stronger." And with that, the phoenix began to rise from the ashes. Years passed, but I was no longer the same broken woman who once cried under the streetlight. I had rebuilt myself, not into the Elena who lived for her daughter's smile, but into a woman who lived for her own dignity. With Mr. Harris's guidance, I pursued every legal path possible. The process was slow, tangled in paperwork and hearings, but with each step I felt stronger. We uncovered that Sophia and her lover Daniel had committed fraud, tricking me into signing documents I didn't understand. Though the house itself had long been resold and renovated by strangers, there were still laws on inheritance and financial exploitation of the elderly. Piece by piece, I reclaimed what she tried to erase. Not the house, no, some wounds never close, but a portion of the money she had stolen. It came to me through a court settlement, quiet and legal, while Sophia sat red-faced before the judge, forced to confront her lies. But the real revenge did not come from the law. It came from life itself. Daniel left her within 2 years, running off with someone younger, taking with him what little savings they had built. Sophia's debts piled up. Creditors called at all hours. I heard whispers through old neighbors that she had sold her car, then her jewelry, desperately trying to keep up the lifestyle she had chased. She had burned every bridge. Friends grew wary of her selfishness, colleagues no longer trusted her, and the community that once admired her looked away when she passed. Meanwhile, I flourished in my quiet way. The bakery where I worked expanded, and I was given a steady role. Customers came to know me for my kindness, for the smile I gave with every loaf of bread I handed out. Clara and the community center remained my second family. On weekends, I helped other women who had suffered betrayal, teaching them to never give away their trust without care. I had lost a home, but in its place I found something greater: respect, belonging, and freedom. The day came, as I knew it would, when Sophia appeared at my door. I lived then in a modest apartment, small but warm, with potted plants on the windowsill and laughter from neighbors filling the hallways. When I opened the door, she stood there like a shadow of the daughter I once knew. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes carrying a desperation that no makeup could hide. "Mama," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Please, I need help." For a moment, the mother in me stirred. I saw not the grown woman who betrayed me, but the little girl who once clung to my skirt, afraid of thunder. My heart ached. But then, like lightning, I remembered the night I begged her not to sell our home. The coldness in her voice when she told me I would figure it out. I straightened my back. "Why are you here, Sophia?" A tears filled her eyes. "I have nowhere else to go. Daniel left me. I'm drowning in debt. I thought maybe you could lend me money, or let me stay here. Please, Mama. I know I hurt you, but you're my mother. You can't turn me away." Her words stabbed me. For once she was right. A mother's love runs deep, but love is not blind anymore. Love, when betrayed, learns to protect itself. I walked to the small table and picked up the framed photograph of Victor, her father. I held it close, drawing strength from his memory. Then I looked into her eyes. I gave you everything once, I said softly, my voice steady. My love, my home, my life, and you took it and crushed it. I rebuilt myself from nothing, Sophia. But I will not let you take from me again. Her lips trembled. Mama, please. I shook my head. You thought I would always be here to save you. But the truth is, you lost me the day you sold that house. You sold more than walls and wood. You sold your mother's trust. And that is something you can never buy back. Her tears fell freely now, but I did not falter. I opened the door wider, not to let her in, but to let her go. You must figure it out, Sophia, I said, echoing her own words. You always do. And then, with a heart both heavy and free, I closed the door. I stood there in silence for a long while, the faint sound of her sobs fading down the hallway. And then I turned back into my little home, where warmth and peace awaited me. For the first time in years, I felt no bitterness, no longing for revenge. Because I had already won. Sophia had expected me to break, to vanish into the shadows of the streets. She never expected that I would rise stronger, reclaim my life, and stand tall without her.